There were probably 40 or 50 bottles of Blanton's on the shelf. I grabbed one. Of course, Summer in her infinite wisdom was like, "Oh, let's go do the tour. You know, you can get it when you come back." So I was like, "Oh, okay." I put it back. Yep, that was a fucking mistake. So we did the tour, come back, and they were all gone. So,
Yeah.
I totally get them putting, stuff on. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't have an issue with them doing that. And that's what ruins it is like, I want a bottle, I want a couple backups, but I'm gonna drink everything. It's just like
Yeah.
it's all these fucking pictures of collectors that have, 150 bottles and nothing's open.
Yeah. Yeah, that shit drives me. That shit drives me nuts. That shit dude, it drives me nuts. And you get those damn people who go out, and I don't know what these people do for a job. I don't know what they do for a living, but I see, especially in the North Carolina groups, it's the same damn people at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and they're like, you get the crotch shot of the Weller Antique, and they're like, score, look what I got. And it's like, motherfucker, that's like your third bottle this week. And you've been in like three different places within, it's like, 100 miles away from each other. It's like, what do you do?
They're
What do you
flipping.
do for a living?
Dude, I tell you what. So I'm on a local page out here that's a hidden page for flippers or whatever. It's strictly for flipping. And it's when you're looking at, hey, EHT barrel proof going for $350, $400 and being, sold within an hour, 2 hours. When you're looking at being able to double, triple, quadruple your money, and there's a couple guys on here that my neighbor and I we know, or at least through Facebook, and they're on this page, and I'm like, man, this guy is probably making $2,000 or $3,000 a week, or maybe every other week, flipping. I mean, it actually pays to go do that.
It's just, it's insane. It drives me nuts because people here, every week, man, they're talking about, hey, has anybody seen this on the shelf or blah blah. I was like, dude, I've lived here for 5 years and I've never seen that on the shelf. But like, I've never seen one in the wild, and they're like, oh man, I've found like 7 or 8, out in the wild. And you're like, nah, man, I got work, and
Yeah.
I might, when I have a day out, and when Nicole let me, it's, all right, I'll go hit my local store, man. But I can't drive across North Carolina,
Nah, dude.
stopping at every ABC store.
This is real simple. I can explain it to you guys as an outsider, okay? You remember when you were a kid? I don't know how Roger was, but remember when you were a kid and there was either baseball cards or G.I. Joes or Star Wars or something. There was always that kid or that group of kids who they were rich and their parents just bought them this stuff. They're like, oh, yeah, fucking Ryan Sandberg card. Oh, hell yeah, I have that. I got like 6 of them. It's like, bitch, I bought like 15 Topps packs and never got a single Ryan Sandberg. Are you fucking kidding me? Well,
So
but I got 6
Asian,
of them.
you saying Asians just don't collect baseball cards and have GI Joes or what?
No, I just don't know if you were rich. You might have been rich growing up.
Dude, I wasn't fucking rich growing up. Do you want a Ryan Sandberg baseball card? I've got a couple.
Well, no, that's just an example. That's the only player from back then I can remember.
There's Luke being passive aggressive.
But you know what I'm saying though. I mean, this is a collector thing. I mean, guys are getting out there and they're taking it real serious. Oh, I heard this, I heard that. I'm going to take off. They take 15 minutes off work to drive over and get it.
Man, I wish they would go back to collecting baseball cards. Because guess what? I can't drink or eat baseball cards, man.
Next year it'll be something else, man. It'll be something else. 2-3 years from now, it'll be something else.
Well,
they'll be on to like
just over the last year. Just over the last year, the interest has gone up so much. I mean, Stag Junior, the new batch just dropped here, and they got it for $89. Whereas last year, I was getting it for as low as 56, generally 60, 65. I think those days are over. I mean, I probably need to go out and buy a bottle because I don't think I'll be able to get it less than 89.
Well, that's the other thing too is, by the flippers and the hoarders, and I don't even mind the flippers so much, right? I don't in a sense, but it's like the store, you get one per. You know what's allocated. You know what's the hot thing. Guess what, motherfucker? You get one. That's it. One item per customer. It's really not that hard. And even the stores here, they're like, well, we don't put it on the shelf. We keep it behind the counter so people don't buy it all out. It's like, put up a sign that says one per customer, dickhead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not that fucking hard. And then enforce the rule. I know it's hard because you're dealing with a society that's not used to, especially younger generation, not having rules and actually having them enforced. But no, you can't walk in. I got there about an hour afterwards. But when it was 2 years ago when Batch 12 hit North Carolina, the Stag Junior, and there
Hmm.
was a store up in Randleman. They got 6 cases of Stag Junior.
Wow.
And so somebody posted on there, they grabbed a bottle and, you get the crotch shot and they're like, Stag Junior at Randleman. And Randleman's about 45 minutes from the house. And they were like, they've got like 6 or 7 cases. I was like, ain't no way they're selling out in 6, 7 cases in 40 minutes. Right. So I fucking hopped in my little go-kart and I ran up
Sucker.
there, dude, I ran up there and in a fucking hour, by the time I got there, those 6 cases were gone. And there was a dude in there, and this dude was livid. He got in there a few minutes before me. He was straight, like, beside himself, livid. And he was yelling, like, because they let somebody walk in there and walk out with 3 cases. One person
Unbelievable.
walk out with 3 cases. And that dude lost his shit. And I tell you what, but it was one of those things. It was like, I'll never buy from that store ever again. Like, I won't do it.
You know what was good? You know what shops were good about that back in the day? And again, like you said, there were rules back in the day. But I fancy myself a bit of a comic book collector back in the day. And dude, those comic book shop store owners, like the one in The Simpsons, they're like, oh no, only one copy for you. I mean, they would not let, like, if something that they thought was going to be valuable comes out, they're like, no. You get one fucking copy, dude. One.
Yeah. And it's that simple. If Harris Teeter can tell me I can only buy 1 pack of toilet paper, you can tell people they can only buy 1 bottle of Pappy. Like, it's just like, it's that.
I wonder if there's some under the table dealing on that, man. If I owned a liquor store and I got like 6 cases and some jackass comes in, it's like, hey man, I'll slip you an extra whatever if you let me just take all these. I might do it. I don't know. It's illegal, I'm sure, but
so that absolutely happens. That actually happens because you have so many people in between the distillery and the liquor store owner, right? Because a lot of times with liquor store owners, they're at the mercy of the distributors.
Oh yeah, it's all the distributor. Absolutely.
And the distributor has the power because they can tell that liquor store owner, I'm not giving you this, this bottle of Pappy or, this Buffalo Antique Collection unless you sell or unless you buy, 60 bottles of Burnham, or 100 bottles of Military Special.
It's Wheatley vodka. That's the big thing out here. So it's like you have to buy like 10 bottles of Wheatley vodka, and then you get the 1 bottle of Weller SR.
Yeah. It's such a racket, man. And the distributors are the ones with the power in there. The distilleries, like, hey man, we just make it and sell to distributors. And
it's bullshit though, because they don't see they create the problem. It's like, so then because Wheatley vodka doesn't sell worth a shit, you create this fictitious market that makes it look like Wheatley vodka is selling because you're making people buy 10 fucking bottles of it. So then next time you come in, now you got to buy 15 bottles of it because they can't move the shit.
Yeah. It's such a shit show, man. And then you have these assholes out here who, go in and they'll buy the 6 cases. And then, 30 minutes later, that shit's on Facebook, like, oh man, clearing out my bunker. And they've literally tripled the price of that bottle. And it's the one, but it's a bottle you're like, man, I really like that. Like, I'll just drink it. You got other people, man, like they'll charge mule fees. There's guys that go down to, Georgia all the time, or they're up in Virginia, or, up in they're even not Virginia, but like Maryland and stuff like that, or in Tennessee, Kentucky. And they'll, post on the Facebook page, they'll be like, hey man, anybody, they'll take a picture of the shelf. Anybody want anything? And then they'll be like, yeah, $20 mule fee, just to bring it back. And you're like, dickhead, you live right next door to me. Like you're coming
back anyway.
Yeah, you're coming back, right?
Just for me.
Well, like, is that gonna, is the weight of that bottle gonna, make your vehicle burn, that much gas? So I'll do it every once in a while. I just don't charge people mule fees. I'm like, hey, I'll just ask people, hey, you see anything you want? Like, I'm coming back. If I have to drive it to Raleigh to give it to you, yeah, I'm not gonna ask you for gas money, but some gas money would be appreciated.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I'm going my route and I'm bringing it back or whatever, it's not a big deal. If I got to make a special trip, okay, that's something, something different. But
but if you're just swinging by the house to grab it, or we're meeting up somewhere, to grab it, and it's within 15, 20 minutes of the house, whatever, dude. That's not a big deal for me. I'm not that, but yeah, it's frustrating Frustrating for sure.
Yeah, I did see that. That was pretty funny. All right, well, let's do this thing, man. Probably shouldn't be too crazy. Luke, you want to do an intro? Fucking kick us off. Mute y'all shit, vibrate, silence, all that other wazoo.
What episode is this? 27?
27. You could just say, welcome to another episode. Unless you
Tell
just
me real quick so I can write it down what I should say.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, man. Let's go.
We've already had to live through your shitty childhood that you didn't get your Ryan Sandberg baseball card. You didn't get your fucking comic book. Is there anything else that you want to vent? Anything else you want to vent here?
I never got
Take
the
note,
G.I.
Josh.
Joe
Take
aircraft carrier.
note, Josh. This is his Christmas list that he's putting out right now. Brian Sandberg, fucking
Joe
comic book,
G.I. Joe aircraft carrier.
G.I. Joe aircraft carrier.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Jesus, fucking so needy.
I'm gonna go to Josh first.
Hey man, that G.I. Joe aircraft carrier was the shit.
It was.
You know what? I never had one of those.
I didn't either.
I didn't have it either. I always wanted it. I didn't have it.
Okay, let's do it here. Let's go.
I had the F-15.
I was just happy to actually get. Remember Destroyer, or what was his name with the silver
Destro.
head?
Destro.
Yeah, I was just happy to actually get that dude. I mean, that was like hard to come by when I was fucking, when I was that age. You go to Toys R Us, man, that shit was always fucking. And those dick bags, man, fucking Hot Wheels. So I didn't know, like, I have a whole tray full of Hot Wheels down here that I collect because I didn't know they're like the treasure hunts.
Yeah,
I didn't know those fucking things go for big time money.
Dude,
like I had a buddy.
Crazy.
Yeah, I had a buddy. He was an infantryman. We were recruiting duty. And he's like, we're out doing our thing. When he was like, oh, let's stop by here. And it was like the fucking Walmart or what it was. And there he is going through like the tubs of fucking Hot Wheels. I'm like, dude, what are you looking for? He's like, the T-Hunts, bro. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And back then, I think it was just, I think we just had eBay. But yeah, man, you pull these T-Hunts out and they're turning right around and flipping them on fucking eBay for like $100.
Yeah.
All right, Luke, now you can start.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the 27th episode of Culper's Canteen Cup, better known as the G.I. Joe aircraft carrier and the land of stolen childhood dreams episode. If you tune into the YouTube bonus features afterwards on YouTube, you can check out what the hell I'm talking about. Thanks, everybody, for listening to us. We had a rambunctious little pregame show here, and I'm still trying not to laugh from it. Thanks to Carlton Zeus for that great intro music. We might tell a couple Carlton Zeus stories later on in the episode. And it's a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to leave it to Josh to decide exactly what we're going to cover. I think Joe Biden picked somebody for something, sniffed somebody's hair, decided she smelled the best. I don't know, but we're going to kick it off. And man, I'm just excited for the debates coming up, and we're still figuring out how we're going to do that live. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to have to be Facebook Live. I think all three of us can get on and look at comments at the same time. But boy, it's going to be a good season. So Josh, I'm going to kick it to you. You can tell us what we're covering this time.
All right, thanks, Luke. So we were going to cover a transition episode, right? So, Roger and I both retired. Luke quit halfway through, and so we, and then we had a couple people submit.
Was it halfway? Did he actually go halfway? Did you actually go halfway?
Less than half, 9.5.
Oh, less than half. Well, so we've all had kind of different experiences in our transition. Kind of an ETS. Getting out prior to retirement. Then Roger retired, went straight into the private sector. I retired, and now I'm a blood sucking government contractor, and we've had a few people submit kind of their transition stories and kind of what they did and what they dealt with. And we were going to do an episode to tell you how to do it right, learn from our mistakes and everything. But thanks to Joe Biden, he screwed all that up yesterday by announcing his VP pick. So we got to talk about the 500-pound gorilla in the room, right? That 500-pound gorilla named Kamala Harris. So, Kamala, Joe Biden, I didn't pick her as, the person he was going to pick. I thought it was going to be Val Demings or Michelle Obama. You guys were talking Susan Rice, or at least I think Roger was talking Susan Rice. I forget who Luke called. I don't listen to him half the time anyway. And so, Kamala Harris, when you go back and you look at it, Joe Biden doesn't need any help in California. I think Luke made the comment on somewhere that, Joe Biden could have picked Pol Pot's ghost and he would have had California locked up, you know. So, but I think Kamala gives that name recognition. My wife pointed out, she probably appeals to a lot of people who don't that due diligence is not necessarily their strong suit when they go in and look at her, her record as, the attorney general for California, especially in this year of fucking murder hornets and George Floyd and COVID and earthquakes. You guys know we had an earthquake in North Carolina a couple days ago. Dude,
I saw that.
Started it.
Yeah,
Yeah, we started the week on Monday with a hurricane. We ended it on Friday with Friday, Saturday with an earthquake. 2020 is straight wild. So, the year that has brought us the Tiger King also brought us, even after, these last couple of months of peaceful protests disguised as riots, riots disguised as peaceful protests, however you want to look at them. It not only brought us that, it brought us, this whole renewed view on race and, how bad slavery was, and it was bad, right? And how, anything with any slavery nexus had to be torn down, had to be, names off of buildings because they were slave owners, or they had, there's some nexus to slavery. We have now come fucking full circle. Now we have one of the major political parties of the United States has now nominated as their vice presidential candidate someone who is descended from slave owners. Like, I don't know, you know what? I don't know that the rules matter anymore. I don't know if we're just like, fuck it, like everybody's just going to ignore that fact. And we're going to continue virtue signaling about other things. And we're going to talk about how everybody should stay home because of the children, because everybody's all worried about the children, and especially, well, except for the people who are good with full-term abortions, which is the same stance that Kamala Harris has. She'll talk about, protecting the children. Unless you get an abortion, then she's going to put a pair of, scissors through their skull and rip them out of their mother. So I'm gonna kick it over to Roger and get his thoughts on this one.
Well, I tell you, I was on the Susan Rice bandwagon, and I was genuinely shocked yesterday when I heard Kamala Harris was the pick. I think we all knew, right? We all knew that she was in the top 2, top 3. I think reasonably in my mind, I knew she was in the top 2, but I honestly did not believe that she was going to be selected because of the amount of baggage she brings and the fact that she doesn't really do a whole lot to help, the Biden ticket. So when I heard that, I was kind of like, wow, that's very surprising. Because from what I can tell, and I don't have any inside knowledge on this, but from what I can tell, we can go into a little bit of Kamala's background here in a minute. But from what I've heard and through the pundits, one of the reasons why I felt that Susan Rice was going to be the pick was that the Biden campaign and Biden himself doesn't get along well with Kamala Harris. I mean, when you look at, I won't even touch on the hypocrisy that Josh just brought on, because you've got that. We can go into the Kavanaugh hearings. We go into the, when she was the DA of San Francisco, I think she actually worked like with the sex crimes prosecutions. So it's kind of odd, right? Because doesn't Joe Biden, didn't he have like 14 either reports or allegations or whatever you want to call it? And I think one might even still be ongoing. So that's kind of crazy. And then I think she just stopped short of calling him a full-blown racist during one of the debates. But I think because of all that, I was absolutely shocked that they picked her, because I don't think that he actually likes her. I mean, I don't, from those that I heard, again, through the pundits and TV, I don't know anybody, but they were talking about Biden just really genuinely doesn't have a liking for Kamala Harris. And then I think it goes back to, what does she bring to the table? And I'll ask Luke this. I mean, she's from California. So California is not voting Republican anytime in the near future. So she doesn't bring you any more electoral votes. And I tell you, here's why it makes a difference. So I'll back it up just a little bit because generally speaking, nobody gives a shit about the vice president, right? The vice president has, they do one vice presidential debate. Nobody really gives a shit. But I think there's a bigger play here. And Josh said it a couple times and he said it for a couple months and I kind of blew it off. But, now that I was thinking about it, when you look at the whole Michelle Obama piece, this decision is critical because in my mind, there's a very good chance that Joe Biden doesn't finish out his first term. And going back to I think it's the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution, the 2-year term limit is that's the mark, the 2-year mark. So you can effectively serve 10 years as a president. And we know that it's hard to beat an incumbent. Now, granted, they may prove that a little different this go around if Trump actually loses, but it's hard to beat an incumbent. So at first I was kind of blowing off Josh's, theory that, Michelle's going to come in late to the game and this and that. And now that I think about it, I'm actually kind of surprised. It's like, wow, you could have actually put Michelle Obama, right? Made her the VP pick. He would have probably won. I mean, maybe he does still go on to win, but, I think the odds sway a little more in his favor with Michelle as the VP pick. He does his 2 years, steps aside because of physical issues or mental issues or whatever. The VP steps up, does the 2 years. And oh, by the way, they can run for an additional 2 terms. So effectively serving as 10 years. So that's why I think with this one here, it's so important that generally speaking, the president does their thing. They've got their own stances. They've got their own policies or whatever. But Luke, I mean, do you agree that well, I guess now it's Kamala, if they actually win, she's going to have a lot more input and a lot more effect on the, presidency, the policies and, national strategies. I mean, do you think she'll have more say than a typical vice president would in a typical, election?
No, I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think she'll have any sway like that. I think it'll be a typical vice president. The more I digest it and think about Kamala Harris, I guess to balance out to bring her on the ticket to balance out any of the racist, weird, racially questionable things that Joe Biden is saying, maybe balance out his record on the busing, which is what they got into an argument about during the debate. Maybe it's just a whole balancing act. One thing's for sure, there's definitely more energy in the Biden Harris campaign now. That's for sure. I mean, more than there was last week. So, people are talking. I've seen a number of different articles. I heard, Donna Brazile talking about how, well, this is great, to have an African-American woman and she's strong and she's all this. And then there was an article from NPR saying, well, this is a great step forward for Indian Americans. And it's like, what the fuck? Okay. When Obama was running way back in the day, I said, he's everything to everyone and he's nothing to nobody. He's just like, he was everything. You want a guy who's clean cut, there's Obama. You want a black guy who's whatever, first black president, he's that. You want a guy who's whatever. He was half black, half white. Kamala Harris is half black, half Indian. So she's, they're just it's already starting with all the nonsense. The nonsense. I use Wikipedia a lot. I try to look at people laugh at me for that, but I mean, what the fuck? You're gonna type something into Google, look something up. That's just as laughable these days as looking it up on Wikipedia. So I don't want to hear your bullshit. All right. At least Wikipedia cites everything, or at least tries to. But I looked at almost all of the candidates for the Democrat nomination. I looked them all up on Wikipedia. I looked up her entry today. It's like 3 or 4, maybe even 6 times longer than it was 3 months ago. And there is nothing on the Wikipedia questioning anything that she's ever done that's negative. I mean, she was a prosecutor for a long time. I mean, even if you're a good prosecutor, even if you're a good DA, there's still going to be people, questioning your decisions on some things. I mean, there's hardly anything. There's probably not a DA out there that was all positive. There's no such thing as a universally loved DA. But if you look at her page, boy, she was universally loved. Oh my gosh, everybody loves her. I'm just underwhelmed, and my wife is all pissed off about Kamala Harris. I don't know why. I still need to talk to her about that. And she's on my ass like, why aren't you more mad about it? And I'm like, well, look who he had to choose from. I mean, I know you guys bagged on Tulsi Gabbard a lot. I agreed with maybe 15% of what she was saying, but at least she was a vet. I don't know. Tulsi didn't rub me the wrong way, perhaps because she stood up to both Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. I mean, she just did not give a fuck, and I appreciate that. That's a little bit of the outsider politician type thing. But look who you had to choose from. I mean, who else? I mean, it's just I'm so lackadaisical about this now, and I still kind of fall back on they don't care if they lose. I'm not saying they're trying to lose, but I don't think they care if they lose. I still think that Michelle Obama definitely, if they lose this time around, the Democrats, I think that Michelle Obama is, if they can convince her, she's a shoo-in for 2024. And I think the DNC and their strategy sessions are talking about that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm with Roger. It's just like I would have been less surprised at Susan Rice. Definitely less surprised at that. I had said Val Demings. Josh, you and I on the last podcast, I think we said that of those that we had named, besides Susan Rice, Kamala Harris has that. You could almost see her. Not that I would want to, but you could almost see her up there as president. She carries herself in that kind of way. Can you see Stacey Abrams? Come on. Even Val Demings? No. You go down the list. I mean, even honestly, to me, Kamala Harris looks more presidential than Pocahontas. I mean, Elizabeth Warren. I mean, she just has that air about her. And maybe it's the upbringing and all the money around her and people telling her she's great, but I think that was part of the decision-making process too. It's like, okay, Joe Biden's old. Who do we put as a face on this? A young, executive-looking face. And I think that Kamala Harris has that. I don't agree with any of her policies. I don't like her too much as a person, but you can see her in that presidential role, kind of. What do you think, Josh? What am I trying to say here? Break it down for me.
No, I agree. She carries herself, and she just has that look. President, see her sitting in the Oval Office. God help us all. It just, but that's all it is. It's a facade, right? That's all it is. Because once you scratch that veneer, like the shit that comes out, right? And so you talked a little bit about it. There was nothing negative about Kamala Harris out there on Wikipedia, or you had to dig for it, and so that's by design, because we know that Google, and we know that a lot of Silicon Valley, they're in bed with the far left, because that's where most of that ideology is bred and instilled out there, in that incestuous cesspool of filth, known as San Francisco and Berkeley, and basically all of California, minus the Sierra Nevadas. But when you take a look and just you take a quick look, one thing about Kamala Harris that came up, I believe it was Tulsi had it in an ad during the debates, was that in 2010 there was a technician at a crime lab in California got caught skimming coke from evidence that was rolling through, and mishandling evidence, right? In addition to doing a line here and there from the coke that rolled through. So Kamala Harris found this out. And you know what she did? She did not disclose this to any of the defense attorneys in any of these cases, right? You have someone working in a crime lab with evidence, mishandling it, stealing it, manipulating it. They threw out more than 600 drug-related cases. Once it finally all came to light. Kamala Harris knew this the entire time. So people were literally getting convicted and going to jail for drugs. Who knows if it was, who knows how many were legit, how many weren't legit. But Kamala Harris knew about this, and she did nothing. She tried to hide it, right? Why she didn't get disbarred over that, I don't know. She also withheld exculpatory evidence from a black man who was on death row. Why, when they found out that she withheld exculpatory evidence, why was she not disbarred and immediately removed as the attorney general? I don't know, but probably a lot has to do because it's California, and everybody out there is a moonbat. I don't know, but Kamala Harris, people are like, oh, she's moderate. Anything, she is anything but moderate. She's anti-Second Amendment. She's for open borders. She wants to decriminalize illegal immigration. She is for 9-month, final term. She's for abortions. So I mean, you can have somebody going into the have a baby at term, and she is fully 100% supportive of aborting that. Is absolutely insane. And she opposed a state initiative to soften minimum mandatory sentences. Isn't that what Trump did? Didn't Trump start to do criminal justice reform, prison reform, right? All these other people talk about decriminalized drug laws, and we got to, the prison for profit program, and all this bad stuff about people breaking laws. And yet she had an opportunity to soften some of those, and what she softball, and others will do your job and not lick the hands of the I don't know, but I do know this: Joe Biden, if elected, not finished it, he will resign to become president, and then she will nominate her vice president, Michelle Obama.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem with Kamala that I have is the hypocrisy. It's everything about her. And I know I get it. Both sides do this, but Luke, you'll actually like this because I read this earlier, and I think maybe the New York Times may have put this out. So you have flip flopping, and I don't have an issue with flip flopping. I think, as a person, as an individual, as a candidate, you learn new things. You don't know everything about everything. So as you learn more information, you may have shifts in policy and what you believe in, and all that other good stuff. But they actually call it oscillations between policy positions. That's what they call her flip flopping. So it's not flip flopping anymore. It's oscillations between policy positions. Let me rewind a little bit. So Luke brought this up, and listeners out there, we actually don't coordinate any of this shit before the show. We just kind of go off the cuff. But he talks about Wikipedia and the edits. So as of July 7th, Kamala Harris's Wikipedia page had been edited over 500 times, which I think if I remember correctly, when they go back and they looked at Sarah Palin, when they looked at Elizabeth Warren, I think Sarah Palin was like 68 times. I think Elizabeth Warren's page was edited 48 times, and then it kind of goes down from there. So, you could sit there and say, well, they knew it was going to be Kamala Harris all the way back in July because they've been edited over 500 times. But again, it goes back to the facade that Josh was talking about where, okay, well, we need to start to mold this clay a little bit to meet the individual that we need her to be. And that's where the hypocrisy goes back. And I think when you come out and you say she's a moderate, compared to the right, compared to the GOP or Republicans, she is not a moderate. But when you look at the left and the far left and the squad and a lot of the way that they're going, a lot of her beliefs are in the middle. And I think that's probably what led Joe Biden to pick her, was to kind of bring it back to the center a little bit. Ilhan Omar, she just won her primary. You've got the squad. Looks like they're all going to be reelected. And I think they added one, right? I think there was a +1 somewhere, I think Missouri or something like that.
Yeah, they added another batshit crazy one.
So they add her. So I think you look at Kamala Harris, you say that she, compared to everybody else, she is more of a moderate. Let's dive a little bit into her history. So 55 years old, born in Oakland. It's funny you mentioned the whole black thing and Indian thing, because the other article I read was that she was also the first Asian American. So I guess you can fit any bill that you
Yeah.
want, right? She fits them all. So mother's Indian, father's Jamaican, born in Oakland, but I guess because India now, according to the U.S. Census, you are considered Asian descent if you're from India, or can claim that as well. So you've got the Indian, you've got the Asian, you've got the black, Jamaican, and whatever else, female, whatever else that you want
Wouldn't
to
that be
classify that
wouldn't
as.
that be a wouldn't that be a privilege to claim all of those?
Apparently not as, I mean, if you're, I guess, a black female, Indian, Asian, maybe not. Maybe that's not privileged, only if you're white. So that's just my guess. So, she'll claim whatever she needs to claim to fit that narrative to get those votes, right? So, whatever voting base that she needs, that's what she's going to claim. So, spent time as the former San Francisco district attorney, 7 years. Like I said, I think there she was doing some sex crimes prosecution. Former AG of California, did another 6 years there before she was elected to the Senate in 2016. So, relatively junior senator. But when you look back at one, I don't even know a lot about her policies. I mean, I've gone through and Googled a couple of things. I haven't seen a lot of her policies. The big one that they talk about, and this is where the oscillations between policy positions came up, was her health care. So at first, it was, she raised her hand, right? Healthcare for all. That was the Bernie Sanders thing. And who would do this? And, talking about illegals, and she raised her hand. Well, then eventually she came out and created her own healthcare policy where she said, well, you know what? We'd wrap in some of the private insurance. We wouldn't do a middle class tax increase. So she kind of moved a little bit more to the center from there. So that kind of goes back to the more moderate take. As far as the rest of her policies, I know Josh brought up a couple things. I haven't seen too many things. And Luke, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if you've read different. I haven't. I just assume what her policies are based on, her being a Democrat as far as abortion, taxes, illegal immigration. But I haven't heard too many things specifically. And I don't know if it matters. This kind of goes back to, she's going to be the VP. Does it really matter what her stances are? But I do believe that she will play more of a prominent role in those policies. The other thing, and I know I'm kind of jumping around here. One of the things that we left out was the Willie Brown thing, right? So she dated Willie Brown back in 1994. He was the Speaker of the California State Assembly. He appointed Kamala Harris to the Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board and the Medical Assistance Commission, which resulted in an increase of her salary of $80,000 a year. So pretty significant. Oh, by the way, when they were dating during this time frame, let's not forget to mention that he was also married. And I get it, him and his wife were estranged or whatever, but he was still married. And then I think he came out and released a letter or something like this, a couple years ago, saying, or I don't even know if it was a couple years ago. I think it was within the last year, that he absolutely influenced her career and had influence over her career. So, you've got some moral issues, I think, there. So I don't know. I think when you look at her, I, she might be a polished politician. She's kind of jumped around all over the place. She was against the death penalty, but as Josh mentioned, you've got the DNA evidence, which I think the guy is still on death row. If I'm not mistaken, I think he is still on death row, and with the evidence that was just kind of like not brought up, could actually be used to clear him. And we're not talking about it was like some random stuff. It was like, hey, at the time of the trial, DNA evidence was not available or wasn't present. They found some that they believe could prove his innocence, and they refused to admit that. And again, I'm sure there's some more legalese behind all that, but I think this guy actually still sits on death row. So to be anti-death penalty, but you have evidence that could actually free somebody from being on death row, you don't bring that up. You got the body cams out there with the police officers where, they were going to make it mandatory. Well, then it comes out, well, she didn't really make it mandatory for everybody. She only made it mandatory for her own personal protection. So, I mean, it's, 2011, you got the California Supreme Court, ordered the reduction in the prison population due to overcrowding. And this is what actually gets me. And I think that was pretty legit. They were talking about the, humanitarian conditions. You can't feed everybody and this and that. But and this is quoted, releasing them would drastically reduce the labor pool. That was her excuse. And then I think
Oh,
when they
man.
actually
Oh,
brought it up to her, She was like, well, you know what? And I'm paraphrasing here. I'll actually have to go back and look to see what we actually said in court. So, like really? Like, so the California Supreme Court said that you're going to release these folks. You choose not to because you don't want to reduce the labor pool, but you don't even remember the argument or the basis of which you argued for or argued off of. So again, I think it just comes down, Luke. I mean, I think I see for me, I don't know if she's just a polished politician and she's able to kind of flip flop because you can't really peg her on anything specific. She does kind of sort of take a stance, but then some of her actions, don't necessarily coincide with the stance that she took. And I think when I look at the broader picture, and I'm not trying to paint anything rosy for the GOP or anything. Don't get me wrong. She is about as left as you can get. It seems like her rhetoric is as an extreme progressive, but then maybe most of her actions, or at least those that are publicized, are a little bit farther to the right. I mean, would that be accurate, or how do you see that?
Oscillations. I like that. Might oscillate a little bit here myself, answering your question. But real quick before I get into that, I was looking at some of the citations and the massive Wikipedia entry for her. And the one I saw most often was San Francisco Chronicle. Check them out. Huffington Post, quite a few times. Washington Post, Old Faithful. And my personal favorite, Vox. Vox had like 6 entries. Can you believe that shit? So, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm the policy stuff. I think you're right. I think she's good at oscillating. She's a politician. I think it's been people have been polishing her for quite a while now, and a lot of deep pockets there in San Francisco have been polishing up that political side of it. I go back to how many votes is she going to actually pull in for Joe Biden? I mean, I don't think it really matters where she stands as far as her policy stance is, how far left or whatever. I just don't know how many actual votes she's going to pull in for people who weren't going to vote or were thinking about voting for Trump. One thing's for sure, she's not Orange Man and she's not Pence. She's left of that, and that's all Democrats care about. The fence sitters out there would call them independents. I just don't. I guess, Pete, if they really, I'm going to be brutally honest, they really play up that race card and that female card, which I don't know why we're even talking about gender. It's 2020, bigot. Why are you misogynist? Why are you talking about gender? What does that have to do with anything? But if they really play up those, divisive intersectional type qualities that she has, you'll get your, enlightened soccer mom from the suburbs thinking, well, I'm not going to vote for Orange Man. If I don't vote for her, that means I'm a bigot. So I guess she could pull in some of those votes where if, maybe Klobuchar had a point where you choose a white man and you're not going to get that fence sitter who is trying to virtue signal to all her friends at the wine club about how open-minded she is, or he. There's just as many he's as there are she's as far as that ilk. But, I don't know. I'll kick it back to you guys as far as like how many votes is she going to actually pull in? How many, especially California. I mean, I know there are a lot of smarter people than me, strategizing about these things. That's for sure. That's not saying much, but they had a reason. I'm still trying to suss it out in my mind. But, I don't know what you were asking for me, Roger. I think I answered it pretty early on where I was like, I just don't think she's going to have much of a role as vice president if she is vice president. One thing that Josh and I were wondering about, when we texted back and forth while Roger was on his 8-hour conference call today, about is Pence in the debate, is Pence going to take it to her? I could see it one way or the other. I could see yes, he's going to take it to her, or no, he's absolutely not. I would love for him to bring up the fact that she, blew her way up the ranks. I'd love for him to bring that up. Will he? I don't know. Will Trump? Probably at some point. It'll be interesting to see that debate.
You can bet on it.
Yeah. He hasn't yet. I've been following that pretty close, but it'll be interesting to see that debate. What do you think, Josh?
No, Pence will not do that. Dude, Pence won't even have dinner with, a woman that's not his wife and, he is absolutely not going to throw out there on the debate stage or anywhere else. He's not going to slut shame Kamala Harris, and the fact that, she banged Willie Brown while he was married, so she could make her way to the top, right? Mike Pence is not going I don't see Mike Pence doing that. I totally see Trump doing that. Like, I totally see Trump coming out and just straight at a rally, just straight throwing it down, man. Or even in a debate with Joe Biden, which if that happens, like Trump's going to be like, this is the type of person you pick for your running mate. I I can totally see the Don doing that, right? Because that's just his style. He's that brash New Yorker, and that's just how Mike Pence. Mike Pence is, that's just not his thing. So Roger, on that, yeah. So there was DNA testing, DNA that came up. The defendants in that case, his name is Kevin Cooper. The defense came up and said, we want this DNA tested, because it possibly, basically it's exculpatory evidence, and it could, show that our client did in fact not do this. She fought against even having that admitted into court and admitted to being to test the period. So that, yeah, he's still sitting in there. The other one she fought against, there was a guy who was accused by his stepdaughter. Stepdaughter accused him of sexual assault, and she testified. And so this guy, he's in jail right now, serving a 70-year sentence. Well, after the conviction, come to find out, the stepdaughter lied multiple times to police. And even the step came out and said that her daughter was a pathological liar. Kamala Harris and crew fought and fought and fought to having that evidence admitted into a court, and having a retrial, but they they pushed it over to the Ninth District Court of Appeals, and basically told the Ninth Circuit that, well, he didn't bring this up in court, during the time, so we don't think it, we're not going to allow it in. And of course, at the time, the Nutty Ninth was truly the Nutty Ninth. They allowed it to stand, and so that guy's still in prison, with evidence out there that could probably exonerate him of that crime, and he's still sitting in prison thanks to vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris. So, to wrap her up on that, she's not, her flip-flopping on issues, her whatever they're calling it these days. When I was growing up, we used to say that right there was somebody who was full of shit, right? That wasn't, well, they're, oscillating, whatever. Like, no, they're just full of that, and that's what that is. And that's what Kamala Harris is. Kamala Harris is full of shit. She may be polished. She may be a polished politician. She's definitely smart. She's not dumb. She knows what to say, when to say it. And so, yeah, she's polished. She's polishing, she's polished a few things, in her time to get to where she's at.
I was waiting for that.
So, maybe Mike Pence will listen to this and take some notes for that VP debate. I think it was Barack Obama came out yesterday or this morning and said that Joe Biden absolutely, quote, nailed it on his VP pick. And where the internet took that. The internet just kind of took that and ran with it, as it often does. But you say the VP candidate, the VP doesn't matter. In this election, the VP absolutely fucking matters, because Joe Biden will not see the end of his first term. He will be 82 years old at the end of his first term if he's elected, right? You look at the cognitive decline that he has now, plus 4 years on that, dude does not make it, right? At the, people want to talk about the 25th Amendment. At that point, you do have a 25th Amendment issue, right? People even said that about Reagan in his final year or two, that the Alzheimer's had already kicked in, and you can't have Joe Biden start talking about silly, and shit like he did in that one Twitter video when he's sitting with a world leader, when he's got his finger on the button. You can't have that. Come on. You just on the matters, because they have a 90% chance, I'd say a 95% chance of becoming president within the first 4 years. So people need to remember that when they go to the polls. People need to take a look at the Supreme Court. What kind of judges are they going to appoint to the Supreme Court? If Supreme Court was important in 2016, it's just as important now, especially with that loony ass John Roberts, up there, just kind of going off the reservation every now and then. So I think it definitely matters. All of this matters. The rules don't matter because the idiots out there, who are going to vote because Orange Man bad, the people out there who are going to vote because, they love, they absolutely love them to Donald Trump, and you'll never tell them different. Those independents, they just, they are going to be, they're the key vote in this election for sure. So
I got a couple questions, more for the broader audience. Are there undecided voters out there? I have a feeling that there aren't any undecided voters. I think the difference is what I believe is going to happen is that you have voters that will either show up to the polls or not, because I don't think there's anybody out there, and this is just my personal opinion, and you guys can go off on it, after, but I don't think there's anybody out there that's like, do I really, I'm kind of torn between Trump and Biden. I just don't see that. So, but what I do see happening is some folks on the left, and maybe even some on the right, that are like, I'm a Democrat, but fuck, man, I can't vote for Biden. Now, I don't believe they'll turn around and vote for Trump. I just think they don't vote. And maybe I think the numbers are greater on that side, but you might even have some Trump voters or some folks on the right that are like, you know what, I'm a Republican. No fucking way I can vote for Biden. But man, I can't vote for Trump either. So, I do think that I think it's probably 2 or 3 or maybe even 4-1 where that happens on the left, opposed to the right. I'm not so sure. Kind of goes back to Luke's. Does she bring any votes? I don't think that she brings you any voters. I'm not sure there's any votes out there to be brought. I guess the better answer would be, I'm not sure she brings any voters who are not going to vote. I don't know she brings any of them to the table. And I think Klobuchar would have. I think with Klobuchar, I think even all three of us here agree that she is, granted, she's on the left side of the aisle, but she is a truer moderate when you really look at all your politicians out there. And she could actually, I believe, bring some folks that would not have voted or are going to stay home. She could have brought some of them to the table. A couple of things I want to say before I close it out and then kick it back over to Luke. I think with Pence, I think he poses a challenge for her on the debate. I honestly believe so. So, Kamala, she's known as, as a prosecutor. She goes after she gets fired up. And those of us know, it's that rapid fire, right? You get those emotions up, that logical thinking goes out the door, and you just boom, 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 you hit them. And that's we saw it during the Kavanaugh hearings. We've seen it we've seen it during some of the debates. But Pence is pretty freaking cool, man. He's kind of laid back. So, I'm not sure that rapid fire. I'm not sure that trying to get him heated. I agree with Josh that there's no way he's going to go down the road of calling her, the Joe and Ho campaign or whatever in the hell it is. He's not going to go down that road. He's not going to talk about her polishing skills. He's going to stay very cool, calm, and collected, talking about, the policies that they've had over the last 4 years. And I'm not sure that Kamala is going to be able to push those buttons that she was able. You saw it during the Kavanaugh hearings. And Kavanaugh is kind of as far as his demeanor, he's a lot like Trump, because he's a fighter. He gets fired up, he gets emotional, and we saw that. I just don't think that works for Pence, and I'm not sure that when you bring that up to the in the vice presidential debates, I think that actually goes against her. The last thing I want to think, or bring up, Christine Ford, Kavanaugh, I believe her. And I think that even with Joe Biden, right? Wasn't it Joe Biden that just a couple months ago, she was saying that, I don't know. I think she may have just fallen short of, I believe, the accuser, but that's the road that she was going down. So we talk about the hypocrisy, but it's like, how do you even reconcile that? One, she was a former prosecutor for sex crimes. And then you come out, with the Kavanaugh hearing, you come out with all the accusations against Joe Biden, which, by the way, I do not believe that we have heard the last of that. I believe that stuff is going to come back around. But then, I'm wondering, as the DNC and as the handlers, like, how do you reconcile all of that? I believe her, I believe the accusers, this and that. Well, then how are you the vice presidential candidate for somebody with all these accusations out there? So, I think there's a lot to be said. I do believe that there is going to still be an October surprise. My final thoughts on it. I think I do still believe that the presidential debates are going to happen. I think there's a slim chance that the Biden campaign makes the stipulations for the debates, so I don't know, I guess so restrictive or so controlling that maybe that nobody agrees to anything. But I think he has to show up for the debates. I think Kamala, I think she is going to definitely play a bigger role if she is the vice president. I don't know if she does well during the debates because I think of Pence's demeanor. But from here on out, I mean, I think the next thing I look forward to is the presidential debate. I'm waiting for the big showdown between Trump and Biden. So that's kind of my final thoughts for this week, Luke.
Yeah, to bring it back to the debates, I'm just so looking forward to that. I hope Josh is wrong. I'm on the fence as usual. I'm oscillating between whether they'll do the debates or not. I think they will, but Josh's whole thing is they'll be virtual. Uh, you know, I hope not. I hope not, because we gotta. For those of you who've known Roger, me, and Josh for a while, we used to get on during the debates and have flame wars, just talking. Even in the primaries, it was just a blast. And we're gonna get on live and do that again. We're gonna figure that out. Josh was just talking about how we need a new platform. Skype isn't cutting it for us right now. We'll work on that. Back to Kamala Harris real quick. There's some good points, Roger. Look at the Hillary Clinton, all the people that did not show up because they just could not stand her. They just didn't show up because they couldn't stand her. Maybe Kamala Harris is kind of the anti-Hillary Clinton when it comes to that. For the people who didn't show up for Hillary Clinton because they just hated her. It's like, what's the hate? Okay, it's Kamala Harris. Yeah, I'll show up for this one. So maybe she's in there just to give a little bit of energy. She's younger than Susan Rice. Maybe it's just an energy thing. Maybe they're hoping for the turnout. I don't know, man. We'll see. Again, we were going to talk about transitions. I'm glad we didn't, because I thought we were going to talk about Roger and Josh's transition. Their transition from, yeah. So I'm glad Josh clarified that early on. We were talking about transition from the military. Yes, I did get out at 9.5 years, but newsflash to you guys, more people actually ETS and retire. So I do have a couple things to say about that. So we'll talk about the transition in the next episode, and really appreciate y'all listening. A couple more things before we get going here. Hey, pick up the book. All right. If you haven't yet, stop talking shit and pick it up. Snafus, Food Bars, Tar Foods, and Other Sordid Tales. Now, Josh and I have decided to go ahead and give 100% to charity. This is all going to the All Secure Foundation. We're trying to raise some money for them because right now is a tough time out there for some veterans. Always is a tough time. To be honest with you, a lot of these veterans are still there in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. And let me tell you something, man, they're just not feeling the love. They're not feeling the love. None of us are. Everybody's forgotten about us. That's what it seems like. So there are a lot of veterans that need help out there. So go ahead and pick up the book. We're going to do a couple of little fun things. We're going to maybe do some giveaways, maybe a couple of challenges out there within the next few weeks. Don't forget about Josh and I, the Battle of the Bulges. I haven't weighed in about a week and a half, but I'm maintaining. I'm not even going to ask Josh. We're gonna wait. That's September 4th is the last day, I believe. 3rd or 4th. I think it's September 4th will be 90 days. So that's coming up. I'm going to give a few shout outs to our faithful listeners. We'll try to do this every week, but honestly, we forget. All the Ryans out there, Marks, moms and dads, parents, family, and old Titus. Thanks y'all for listening. Thanks for everybody for giving us the time. We really appreciate it. So until next time, keep your canteen cups full and tightly secured.
All right. And for your freemium content, we also want to thank Carlton Zeus because, Luke forgot to throw that out there, right? www.carltonzeus.com, Apple Music.
Hey, he actually emailed me. I asked him about the transition thing. I was like, what did it look like for you? And he actually wrote out a bunch of shit. And I was like, man, this is good stuff. Because he got out of the Air Force, and then it was like 5 to 7 years before he could quit his Booz Allen job and go full time. And he had some good stories. I'm not going to repeat them because he was calling like some big names out by name, like people who worked with the big names. and saying how they did it wrong and everything. So it's good, man. It's good. If we can ever get him on, it's going to be entertaining. I promise you, man, because he got some good stories.
We need to
I'm
make
actually
that.
looking. Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm actually looking forward to the transition episode because I tell you what, and we know some folks out there. I think the biggest thing is there are so many people out there that give bad fucking advice. I mean, it's I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a personal responsibility, right? So we are all supposed to do our own due diligence, and you got to go in, put forth the effort, create your resume, but you have some folks that like I personally know folks that are like these life coach, life career coaches, trainers, mentors, whatever the fuck they're calling themselves now. I'm like, dude, you've never held a fucking job. You were in the army, you got out, you became a life coach, and that's what you did. I mean, it's like, what the fuck do you know about applying for jobs or writing your resume or this? Well, I've been a life coach for 8 years, but yeah, you were in the army for that. So how do you know? And these guys and gals out there that are paying for resume services and this, they take all that advice in, and it's dog shit. I mean, like, hey, maybe you need to do a little due diligence into the guy or gal who's helping you out before you start taking advice from them.
Yeah. No, I saw that. Like even in our, when I transitioned into last year, like, dude, there were so many people sitting in there, like, hey man, there's a company that and these weren't the instructors saying this, but there's just people, talking on breaks and class stuff like that. They were talking about how, man, there's a company that you pay them, it's like $100, they'll write your resume, for you and blah blah, and you're like, stop, like you do not do that. Like, you can write your own resume. There's
So with Kamala Harris doing all of her polishing, does that mean that grabbing the pussy's over with, or is that coming back around?
Yeah, that's a good point, man. That's awesome. I just, God. So you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for with the premium content.
Yeah.
Dude, damn it. Somebody said something about, it's easier to get into Kamala Harris's bedroom than it is your local community college.
Oh
Jesus.
Hey man, you know what? She opened herself up for it, man. I don't have any sympathy for people who open themselves up in the public sphere like this. Actors, politicians, whatever. You knew what you were getting into, man.
But is she truly ready for it? Because when you look at the debates, and then even when you look at some of her interviews and articles, so there are two things that she stays away from. She stays away from her relationship with Willie Brown, and she stays away from her prosecutorial experience. And even the New York Times calls her out. It's like, yeah, she just she goes away from that, deflects away from it. Well, you can do that when you're debating other Democrats because they don't necessarily get into the mud. We know where the Don's going. He's going straight there, right? His people are going to go straight there. So it's like, can she really defend all of that?
Yeah. The biggest thing, man, I gotta hope they have in-person debates. Because
I'm drinking for that.
Dude, I just hope they have in-person debates because Trump is going to get Biden so rattled and so riled up. And when Joe gets excited, like, that's when he comes up with the craziest shit, man. That's when that's when the true Joe comes out, is when he gets crazy excited. Like that dude at the plant, I want to say they're up in Michigan, where
the
guy was talking about the Second Amendment and stuff like that. And Joe Joe got in his face, and then in that that diner, that town hall, that dude called Joe out. He called Hunter Biden out, and Joe called him a fat ass. Like, when you get Biden riled up, the true Biden comes out, man, and Trump is going to get, dude, if I was Trump, I would come in there, dude, it'd be like that Danny DeVito fucking Jeff, man. So anyway, I started blasting. Like, I'd come in guns a-blazing. If I was Trump, he could do that. Pence won't do that, man. That's just not his style. Pence, he's not that guy.
We'll see, dude.
It's funny because the Joe Biden gaffes, I mean, it's become a daily thing now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like daily. Like, that guy.
Did you see the Twitter video? When he started off, he was like, all right, so you got 1.3 billion, right? Yes. And then he starts talking about spaghetti.
What the fuck? Are you serious?
Yeah, dude, I messaged that to y'all.
Yeah,
Fuck, I
it
must
was
have missed
actually
that.
like I didn't even know what the fuck he was talking about because you got 1.3 billion and then spaghetti and then I mean kitchen and oh look at that
Yeah,
Chevrolet. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about,
dude,
dude?
he just went off, man. Like mid sentence, he just like poof, gone. And I'm telling you, something is significantly wrong with that dude. I'll find it again. I'll send it to you, Luke. Stop deleting my shit.
Dude, I'm getting spam, man. I'm getting spam from all you guys that don't work, man.
Yeah, there's some motherfuckers that need to go back to work because the problem with being in multiple groups, especially when you have like the same people, it goes ding, 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 ding. So like the 4 groups that have the same person or whatever, I get the same text 4 fucking times. Go back to work. Go back to work.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yep.
You know what
But
we need to do? We need to do an episode strictly on like Biden gaffes. We just
Oh,
have
yeah.
like a string of like 50 of them.
hey, we just play the clips.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
We'll play the clips and then commentate on them.
That's where I'll help Roger. So you guys, if you have a clip of Biden, send it to me or whenever, or I'll find it. I mean, I have a YouTube video saved, and it's like 46 minutes of his bullshit and no repeating. So yeah, let's start putting that together. Just message me a clip. Like if you remember something he said, I'll find it. I'll make a sound file of it and put it in the share folder.
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying
That'd be
you
awesome.
before you got on this program, you take a test whether you're taking cocaine or not. What do you think? Huh? Are you a junkie?
Dude, that was the best. Did you see that dude's face too? He just sat there.
Yeah.
Like, did this dude really just say
He's
that? Like, did that dude just call me a junkie? Yeah, dude, he's out of control. No, we absolutely need to do that. So bucket list stuff, right? So changing gears. All right, so next year we're doing so I'm gonna put this out in the Facebook group. So we are doing Punta Cana first week of April for Kids Spring Break. We're gonna take them down. We're gonna go to Hard Rock and Dom Rep.
Now be careful. Don't put out anything specific because this is going on YouTube. And so we'll probably get mugged by all of our fucking fans out there, going to Punta Cana first week of April to come see the fucking Culper's Canteen Cup.
I don't think that Luke's mom and my mom are going to mug us. They're really the only people.
Probably have a whole lot of state security out there.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, yeah, we got a bone to pick with you motherfuckers.
That's right.
Yeah.
So doing that, and then obviously the running with the bulls. The next year, doing Everest Base Camp, and Nicole's already, she's already hacked off on all this. The year after that, doing Normandy, and then looking in 2024, doing Antarctica.
A lot of money. A lot of money.
Well, it's not if you fucking save.
Still
you started a sinking fund. What's that?
A lot of money.
You're talking to Specialist Jones right there. He's payday. He's the reason why fucking pawn shops exist.
Yeah, that's right. Pawning this computer tomorrow.
It's not. It's actually not a lot of money when you save and you're disciplined about it.
How is that even? That doesn't even fucking make. Either it's a lot of money or it's not.
It's not, but it's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, so $20,000 is not a lot of money.
In the grand scheme of things, no.
Well, until the kid is out of college, it's a lot of money.
I thought your kid was going to college for free or some shit. Was she like scamming the system or something like that?
Scam the system? What are you talking about, man?
He's asking you, Luke.
I live in Lubbock, Texas, man. I'll talk all this shit about Slovenia, man. I live in Lubbock, Texas, man.
Slovenia doesn't fucking
Tech Terrace. Tech Terrace.
No, man. Isn't he going to college for free though? And he play golf? No. He's really good at golf. He's really good. But dude, you've got to be to get a full, even a half scholarship. You know that kid, Jordan, whatever, he plays on the PGA. Jordan Spieth. Spieth, yeah, Spieth.
He was basically a PGA player out of high school, didn't even get a full ride scholarship to UT. It's fucking crazy, dude.
What?
Yeah, dude. The golf scholarships are like really competitive, and they like to give them Title IX to the female golf teams to get more football scholarships. Yep, it's crazy, man. No, man, I'm Everest Base Camp. I don't know, man. Talk to Ted about that. Seriously, Ted did that.
Yeah, no, I saw the pictures up at his house.
You know, he said they were extremely lucky because he'll give you all the facts and figures, but I want to say over half the people that go can't get a picture of Everest because of weather.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, it doesn't matter. Whatever, you're there. It's the experience. It's, you know, a story you can tell yourself on your deathbed. But you know, that never occurred to me. Is that the weather is so bad, you'll go up there, stay a week, and not see shit.
yeah.
That sucks.
So who's getting eaten first when we get fucking locked down up there through an avalanche? Who's willing to start eating first?
Well, wait
first?
until the weight challenge is done. And then we'll decide.
Yeah, Josh isn't fat. He likes to call it marbled.
Yeah, he's well marbled, just like me, man. I got a well marbled gut.
But yeah, man, tasty.
Dude,
But no, seriously, the Normandy thing. Like we're gonna go over and do northern France for a week.
You haven't been?
Uh,
It's great, man. It's really awesome. And the people up there in northern France are actually very, very, very friendly, and not like Parisians. They're actually really nice.
Yeah, we're gonna do Normandy. So, but like I'll throw some of that stuff. You know, I'll throw that out on the Facebook page, the group, and you know, man, whoever wants to come along, come along.
Are we taking Mac flights over?
Not me.
Well, we talked about. We talked about Mac flighting when we can, you know, but I mean, some of those just aren't like, it's probably, you know, catching a Mac flight over for like running the bulls and those like very finite dates, right? You gotta be back for work and stuff. Like that's, you know, they're probably going to have to, you know, shell out some money for a plane ticket. You know, it's like, hey man, I got 3 weeks to fucking kill. And I'm going to go to Normandy. Yeah, I could probably, you know, wait for a Mac flight, catch the BWI rotator into, you know, Belgium or something like that, or into Frankfurt, then fly, you know, Ryanair for, you know, $80, or something. But yeah, we'll try and do that where we can, but it just all depends.
Sounds like a plan.
We should make it a fire island.
So for all you YouTube viewers out there, that's the end of your freemium content. So again, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, or however you're catching our content, and stay safe out there. And we'll see you next time.